Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fantasy Cricket Podcast. I'm Nik, as usual, joined by Azza. Hello, Azza.
Hi, Nik. Good to see you here.
Yeah, it's good to be back for another Insights episode. This is our second Insights episode, and we're continuing with the theme of point scoring. But this time at Test cricket, because Test cricket point scoring in fantasy cricket is different. There are different considerations. We touched upon it a little bit on our very first episode when we were previewing the World Test Championship final, but it makes sense to maybe have a separate Insights episode just to make sure there's clarity across the board.
Yeah, certainly. And there's two things we're considering here, isn't there? There's the first part, which is the point system itself, but then we're also trying to enlighten the listeners about the nature of Test cricket, how that's different. You could almost say that it's a different sport to T20 cricket. And so how those dynamics will affect your team picking and the dynamics with the point system as well.
I mean, I don't know about fantasy cricket. It's definitely a different sport when you're the English cricket team, that's for sure.
That's definitely true.
Getting thrashed in Test cricket, but seemingly doing well as we speak in the one day and T20 series. I guess we start at the top with everybody's favorite thing, unless you're a bowler or an all-rounder, bowling all-rounder, but it is batting. It's probably the easiest way to understand how to score points.
Yeah.
So what do you have for us, Azza?
So quickly, for the uninitiated in fantasy point systems, fantasy cricket is an optimization exercise. You're trying to optimize for what you think is going to be the best 11 players who will get you the most points in any given match. So you have to pick 11 players from the 22 who will be playing the match. Unless there are concussion substitutes, then there'll be more than 22 on offer. So again, you're picking wicket keepers, batsmen, all-rounders, and bowlers. And there's a limit to how many minimum and maximum of each of those categories that you can pick. So that's pretty straightforward. Now let's get into the batting. So batting, you get points as batsmen get their runs. That's how they earn their money. And you get points for the runs that any player will be scoring. And that's the most basic form of points aggregation. And that's for any player in the team. For any runs that they score, you're getting a point or 0.5 points, depending on the app. And then, of course, there are the bonuses. Now, what are the bonuses? They are boundary and six bonus, where you're getting an additional point for a boundary, which is a 4 runs, and additional 2 points for a 6. And then there's a half century and century bonus, which
again, Azza, sorry to interject, that depending on the app, those bonus points may vary.
Yeah.
It's app to app. They have different bonus systems, but broadly, what you're saying is these are the categories in which you're going to get bonus points.
Exactly. And just continuing on, the other bonuses are half century, century. Those are there across all the apps. Now, some apps have an additional double century or even a triple century bonus. I don't know if you want to be playing for a double century or a triple century bonus. If Virender Sehwag was still around, you might have wanted to do that.
Then you might have a shout. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or Brian Lara even.
And well, one thing that wouldn't be a benefit, even with Viru still around, is strike rates. I believe that's not something we're going to have to worry about when we're looking at batting in fantasy Test cricket.
It doesn't matter how quickly you score your runs. It just matters that you score your runs. And then, of course, it helps if you're scoring them in boundaries and sixes, and scoring a lot of them will help as well. So it's pretty straightforward.
So that's the difference there, really.
Yeah.
It's, I suppose, as with cricket and Test cricket and T20 cricket, the same applies to fantasy Test cricket and fantasy T20. You have similar principles you want in fantasy Test cricket to be looking at safe options, batsmen who are going to aggregate, batsmen who are going to score daddy hundreds, as Graham Gooch likes to call them. And that's what's going to get you batting points.
Yeah, and what's not going to get you batting points, Nik, is if you get out for a duck. In fact, not only will that give you no positive points, it will give you negative points. So if you're scoring 1 point for 1 run, then you're scoring -4 points for a duck.
So if you picked English batsman in Ahmedabad, you probably lost a lot of points, is what you're trying to say.
Probably, yeah. And it's interesting because in Test cricket, batsmen might bat only once, oftentimes, and if they're getting out in that one innings for a duck, and you have selected that person in your team, then that's all the points that you're leaving on the table, really.
Yeah, you're losing a lot of points there. Contrastly, you may have lost points picking English batsmen in Ahmedabad. You definitely would have gained points picking Indian bowlers in Ahmedabad. So looking at the Test cricket scoring system for bowlers, how does that shape up?
Yeah, so it's again, bowlers earn their money by picking wickets. There are two ways to victory in cricket. You either outscore your opponent or you take more wickets than your opponent. And the job of a bowler to pick up wickets is, again, how you're going to be picking your fantasy players, because the most points on offer are for each wicket that a bowler is picking up. And that does not include runouts, by the way. That's a wicket that goes under the bowler's column.
Yep.
And that's just the basic points. Now, there are bonuses again. In particular, the bonus would be for an LBW or bold. Now, so if you're getting, say, 16 points on a given app for a wicket, you're getting an additional 8 points for LBW or bold. So it's 24 points.
So that's something worth considering, I think, when you're playing fantasy cricket. We know that there's an upcoming England-India 5-test series, which is going to be really exciting. Generally the way it works in England is you get a lot of caught behind, so you might not be getting LBW wickets. Do you want to maybe look for a bowler who's might attack the stumps a bit more? These kinds of considerations are gonna come into play, I think.
And also, if there's a keen fantasy cricketer, you can look at certain trends in English cricket, county cricket, international cricket in England of late, where the ball is not the wickets are not going on the outside edge as much as they're going for the inside edge, as to say that it's more LBWs and bowls in the last few years. So again, interesting.
And that applies to England, but for Australia, India, it can be different. But your point basically being that LBWs and wickets are getting you bonus points. That's what you wanna go for, really. In terms of fielding, Azza, I think.
Sorry, just one thing that we didn't touch upon again. 2 bonuses in Test cricket for bowlers are the wicket haul bonuses. So you get points for 4 wicket haul in an innings.
Important one.
Yeah, and 5 wicket haul in an innings, you get additional bonus points. So again, that really helps. If you have a bowler in a series who's really been on fire, you're looking at a lot of points on offer. Just one last thing I want to touch upon. Just think about it this way: you get a bowler who gets a wicket, plus, and that's a bold. Okay, that is 24 points. Now, if you have a batsman who scored 24 runs off just running between the wickets, so no other bonuses, that batsman has had to put in far more work for those points than a bowler has. And that's really the dynamics of Test cricket and fantasy point system, and something to think about, really, for the listener.
Yeah, I think it comes in the form of picking strike bowlers. I jumped the gun a bit on fielding earlier, but let's dive into that now. We've got strike bowlers need people who are catching the ball. You need good slips fielders. You need good covers and wicket keepers. How's the point system looking there? From what I understand, and you are the expert on this, there's not much of a difference between the T20 and the Test scoring. I think fielding seems to be a constant across the board.
No, it's pretty much the same, really, and it's divided into catching, stumpings, and runouts. Now, every catch will get you about 8 points or 4 points, depending on the app. It's just standard. A stumping is going to get you about a little bit more than that, maybe 10 to 12 points. And then runouts, they're in 2 categories: a direct hit, where there's just one fielder touching the ball and then the ball hitting the wicket, or not a direct hit, where if there are 2 fielders involved, then both those fielders are going to be getting half the points that a direct hit would be getting. So adding up to the same number of points.
And I think the bottom line is when we talk about fielding points, as we did in our T20 Insights episode, is just the consideration is not that you pick players just for the sake of fielding points.
Yeah.
It's perhaps if you toss up between different players and you're on a 50-50 as to who to pick, maybe consider what their ability is in the field.
Absolutely.
Or, you know, or is it worth picking, if you've got two batsmen who are also wicket keepers, you could pick both because you're going to get double points potentially on catches from both sides. So, you know, these are the minor considerations that hopefully will really elevate you to that next level.
Well, also keep in mind that in T20 cricket, if you're trying to pick for a fielder, you're looking at boundary riders in the death overs, infielders in the points area, gully area in the power play. But in Test cricket, you're really looking at wicket keepers, as you said, and slips fielders. And maybe here and there, you're looking at the forward short leg or silly point. But that's really if you know which fielder is going to be in which position, I think you can have better informed decisions when you're picking your team.
Yeah, I think so. As with T20 crickets, your starting 11 has to be all playing, otherwise you lose points.
Even more important, actually, you know, because this match goes on for 5 days and you're really missing out on so many points. If you have 10 players out of 11 playing, then that's one player who might not get you about 100, 200 points even.
Yeah, that's huge. And in terms of captaincy and vice captaincy, again, it's the same multipliers that are there in T20 cricket. Again, it's almost more important to be careful with your choice in this format because you know, you have 2 bites of the cherry. You've got a double, you know, 2 innings. You want to make sure your batsman or your bowler that you pick as your captain or vice captain is going to score you points. Yeah,
and it's really sort of a go big or go home kind of thing in Test cricket, because if it really clicks, you're getting a lot of points. If it doesn't, then you might be looking at a lot of time looking at your screen and wishing you'd pick the other guy.
I think the summary there, not just on the point of captaincy, Azza, but maybe just Test fantasy cricket in the whole, is just you're going to be a bit safer when it comes to fantasy Test cricket. When it comes to captaincy and vice captaincy, you want to pick players that you can trust a bit more rather than perhaps going for a left field decision that you might in T20 cricket. And Test cricket, as in fantasy Test cricket, both scenarios favor consistency. And that's what you're really looking for.
Exactly. That's about it. You know, we can get into some of the more nuanced ideas in other Insights episodes, but here we're just trying to give you an idea for what the points are.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect note to end on. We've got links to socials and Patreons in the YouTube description, on our Anchor and on our Ghana. You can follow us wherever. Please like, comment, subscribe. Any sort of support you can give us would be great. And if you can, please donate on Patreon, send in an email with some feedback, and just let us know what we can do to improve on what you'd like to hear next. But otherwise, thank you very much, Azza. It's been another great episode.
That was great, Nik. Thanks so much.
Cheers. Take care, Azza.